booties for black girl nerds.
Hello, all. Very happy to see you all back again. My favorite show of the universe, and you guys are major contributors to it. Hailey, I will begin with you for Jukebox, and I'll have this question for all of you. Each of your characters have their own individual goals that continue to be suppressed to a certain extent, even when they try to step outside of their family dynamic. Those goals keep getting pushed down by other circumstances. So, Haley, beginning with you, is there a way to have a balance of maintaining this family dynamic that they're all clinging to and still step outside and kind of push up their own individual goals? Can the two coexist?
I mean, I personally think that they can. I think the thing about being in the Thomas family is you're in it, until the very, very end, whether you want to be there or not. But yeah, I think it's doable. You just have to you just have to know that stuff is gonna go wrong. You might get asked to do things you don't want to do, But yeah.
Malcolm, for Lou, we've seen a big transformation in him. Is that more due to his responsibilities to the family, or the sort of courage, I guess you say, to pursue his own individual aspirations?
I think it's both. I think that it takes a change in a person to decide to be courageous enough to go against the grain of what the family's established as their normal business. And then I also think that because of the family dynamic, he has been changed forever because of what they did. They just kind of be doing shit. So, and he is not okay. So I think you're right on both fronts.
Mm-hmm. London, for you, for Marvin, what do you think that he best serves for the family? What is his greatest gift to the family dynamic?
I think it's his ride or die energy, basically, because even if he's out of pocket, or even if the action was misplaced, where his heart is not. So that allows him to kind of, his loyalty allows him to kind of just sometimes move ahead of himself without really thinking it through. But at least, he's there.
Mm-hmm. For Hailey, we've seen Jukebox heart get broken in seasons 1 and 2, and just lots of heartbreaking, traumatic things happen to her. Is that does she still have the same heart, or is that heart just gone completely black by this point, or as we go into this next season?
My biggest wish for her is that she always has that empathetic energy, and that she always has that emotional awareness for herself and of other people. I think it serves her when she's dealing with the other characters in the universe. It gets better for her without giving away too much. It definitely gets better, and I'm excited for everybody to see that side of her for sure.
Mm-hmm. Malcolm, over to you. When I was talking to Sascha earlier, he mentioned that at the core, this is still like a family show about family dynamics. There's the other things that are happening, but at the core, it's still a show about a family. If you had to describe this family, not necessarily what they do, but who they are to each other, how would you describe this family to someone else?
Trauma bonds.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Trauma bonds.
Trauma bonds. What is the biggest insight you can give us about trauma bonds and codependency and how this family moves?
I think that we are the quintessential poster children for trauma bonds. We formed trauma bonds because our daddy left. So London's character and Patina's character and my character are bonded just in the fact that our family was broken and fractured. Our mother was toxic. It is what it is. And then, albeit the byproducts of that, the second generation to come along is, of course, Hailey's character and MeKai's character, who are also being kind of set upon by that exact same trauma bond between us all. And they're forming their own trauma bonds with other people, which also becomes very toxic. So trauma bonds, that's what they should just rename the show. Raising Trauma Bonds. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
London, is there a way out? I mean, given this show is set in an earlier time period where people weren't vocally prioritizing like therapy and stuff and, you know, that course of action, is there a way out that's true to this time period for them to escape these trauma bonds? Is there a way out other than, you know, jump in, jump out, other than that?
I think if some of the Thomas family dinners were based on reflection and conversation that dealt with family issues and the traumas, as opposed to trying to figure out the next plot and the next corner to take, I think we would get somewhere with that. Because obviously we still have some sort of family values there because we gather and we meet. So, and not even just with the siblings, but with we bring the younger ones in as well. So we still have something solid there. It's just the type of conversation I think would have to change at the dinner table for change.
All right. Well, I thank you for your time. I had to really think about what I wanted to ask you because I've seen the first 3 episodes of the season and I don't want to lead the people watching towards anybody. And woo, they got y'all looking good though. You guys are looking good. Very, very good so far. So I'm very excited to see the rest of the season. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thank you. Very excited to talk to you all. This is by far my favorite show of the universe, and just all of the respective paths that everyone is on, like Burke, and the challenges. And I thought about the challenges of trying to convince people that you know something and it's true, even if they're like, oh, you know, almost like a sheep crying, the wolf crying, you know, that,
yeah,
and no one believing them. So what do you think is the key to trying to convince people of something when they're already a little skeptical of the message?
If I knew the answer to that, I would be president of the United States of America. I cannot convince anyone of anything. And I don't think that Shannon can either. I don't know what the key is to convincing somebody when they just will not believe you and don't trust you or just don't want you to know something. Hell if I know. If you find that out, Giandra, please let me know. I would like to know.
And then on the flip side, I'm trying to fight that battle every day. And then on the flip side of that, there is one person or several who might know that you are correct in telling the truth, but they're gaslighting you at every opportunity to make you look crazy. How do you maintain your sanity? How does a character like Burke maintain their sanity, or can they maintain their sanity in that type of scenario?
Well, I think that people who are maybe more tactful than Burke figure out ways to maintain their sanity, but Shannon certainly doesn't. She gets the gaslighting. She doesn't like it. She's already in a position where she's the underdog and she's trying to prove herself. So when somebody is gaslighting her and telling her that she's wrong, it burns that fire brighter for her and makes her work harder to prove to people. And she'll do anything to prove that she's right. And I think we see the consequences of that this season.
Mm-hmm. One thing that's been particularly intriguing to me about her is when you are in a profession and not necessarily the result of nepotism, but just residing in a place where there's someone in your family who casts a big shadow and stepping beyond that shadow. Is that a struggle for her? It's touched upon at different points, but is that truly a big struggle for her in addition to the other things, stepping beyond the shadow of her father also being an officer?
Absolutely. I think it's a huge drive for a reason why Shannon is so bullheaded about finding out the truth and people believing her. She wants to create, she wants to be out of her father's shadow. She wants to create a name for herself and have people know her for her instead of her father. I think that there are different ways that she could have gone about it. keeping her head down, doing a good job, and not sticking her nose in business that she needs to let go, that everyone tells her to keep letting go. But it does the opposite for her. It fuels her more. Especially because her dad is such a large figure in her life and this story. She could say, listen, that's my dad, and that's his legacy. That is not me. I'm going to prove to you separately that I'm a hard worker, and I think Howard sees that. But to everyone else, she's still trying to tell this story, and I think it leads to her demise as well.
Absolutely. And lastly, favorite thing about working with MeKai Pfeiffer?
MeKai Curtis.
With MeKai Curtis.
MeKai Curtis. I mean, I rarely get to work with MeKai. I only got to work with him once. But I think that I love MeKai. I mostly got to work with Omar Epps, and I've loved working with Omar Epps over the years. He's become, we have a great friendship, and it's interesting. I was just talking to somebody else about how when the scene ends, we are talking about our exercise routines and our families and like going bow fishing in Florida. But then when the scene starts, there's this tension that just cuts in, and you can feel Omar's power that he has. And so I've really enjoyed working with him and seeing how he flips that switch. You see how he's such a professional and has built such a huge career for himself. I've really enjoyed that.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you. They are wrapping me. Have a marvelous season, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, DeAndre.
Take care. Hello, guys. Thank you for your time. Very excited to talk with both of you. It's never a dull moment in the Raising Kanan universe. So, Joey, I am going to begin with you. And I look at Unique, and Unique has a certain level of charm to him that the other players don't have. How do you think that that charm that he has helps or hurts him in the whole landscape of what they're doing in the drug trade?
Well, I think that it helps him in the way that, everybody is navigating and bungling for power, which I believe is, somewhat synonymous to freedom. And I think that charm helps Unique navigate, like it helps him get what he wants. You know what I'm saying? He's able to get the reactions out of people that he deems necessary to move up in, different areas of his life.
Mm-hmm. Grantham, for you, welcome to the season. I've seen the first 3 episodes. I have very much enjoyed what I've seen so far. And with him and with Ronnie and Unique being brothers, they're sort of on the same side of a spectrum of human behavior, I guess you could say. And not good or bad, but just a spectrum of personality. Where do you think he lies on the spectrum of virtue, non-virtue? I'm trying to think of how to shape it without giving too much away of what they're going to meet this season.
For me, I think when it comes to their relationship as brothers, like you were asking Joey about his charm, and I think Ronnie lacks all of that. Ronnie, he was never one for charm. He's never one for actually the way that we can politic with each other. Ronnie sees it one way, and it's his way. So I think on that spectrum, they're like not polar opposites because they're brothers, they're from a similar background, but I think their way to approach the world and people and problems is very different. Ronnie sees one way through a problem, and that's literally going through the problem.
Mm-hmm. In a family sort of hierarchy, it's always like the oldest sibling has to look out for the younger siblings. Back over to you, Joey. For Unique has been out there as a younger sibling who's been running things. How does that change, do you think, family dynamics when the younger person of the family has to sort of take control of the family's dealings? Because usually they say the youngest child is spoiled and they didn't have to do nothing because the older ones take care of it. So how does that do you think that shifts when it's the younger person running?
I think it's kind of like the Serena and Venus Williams story, right? Like Venus was the first one, but what's their dad's name? Was it Robert? Was their dad's name? I believe. I can't remember their dad's name, but the way that he trained them, he always knew that Serena was going to be greater than Venus because Serena got to learn from Venus's mistakes. And I feel like, this exists for Unique and Ronnie in a sense where it's just like, Ronnie has this way of operating. And I feel like, whatever transpired back in the days when Ronnie was in charge, I feel like Unique was in tow waiting for his moment to be king, not necessarily trying to overthrow Ronnie, but learning from him in a way and being able to apply what aspects he'd keep, what aspects he'd change. So, by the time the opportunity came, I think he gracefully took that position. I think it was natural for him to want to exist in that space. And, with this new season, he's navigating, the challenge of having to share this spot again.
Ooh. I love that comparison. Thank you very much. They are wrapping me. I've seen the first 3 episodes. Chef kiss. Very excited.
Well, you're doing better than us because we have not seen the first 3 episodes. So you could share that link with us if you like.
It's kind of jamming. They got y'all looking good. Thank you so much for your time. Very excited for the rest of the season. Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, guys. I'm looking at you guys in the mirror. Very different looks, just like your characters. Antonio's tripped out, lots of jewels early in the morning. Kanan is chilling with his fly jammas on, looking great. But I'm excited to talk to you guys for another season. I mean, it's fly. It's fly. I'm into it. But I like it. It's kind of like a foreshadowing of your characters and what they're going through this season as they sort of have this controlled independence as they continue to live on their own. So MeKai, beginning with you for Kanan, usually children who are privileged have difficulty kind of going off on their own and living their own life without the assistance of their parents and their family. Is this a journey that Kanan has? Is he going to slip into this independent so-called life this season with ease, or will it come with the challenges of coming from privilege?
I don't think he necessarily enjoys the basis of it coming from the privilege that he's been afforded, because he feels that the privilege that he has is kind of been built on a lie. Yeah. And that's essentially the biggest thing, that Kanan is, he kind of stands on, is like the truth. Like, there's so much that happens to him and around him. It kind of just makes him see the world in a very different way, and a kind of a very, just a very different, I dare I say, not grounded way, but just the circumstances and the people that he's around kind of shape him in that way. And that's the same thing you kind of see him just wrestle with throughout the entirety of the season.
Mm-hmm. Antonio, over to you for Famous. Famous sort of gets a bad rap of not being sort of the sharpest knife in the drawer. He's just kind of, go along, get along for the most part.
That's a great way to say that.
But at the same time, there is a wisdom in him that he's one of the few people in Kanan's life who is a truth teller. Yeah. Whether it's blurted out or not. What do you think is the best thing that Famous serves for Kanan in his life?
I think, especially so far with how the show's gone, I think I keep Kanan. I think I'm one of the few things that keeps Kanan held to the realities of the good parts of the world, and I think that there's times in the show where it seems like everything has gone, pardon my French, to shit. And when we get to speak, when we get to have scenes together, it's almost like he gets a break from that. So I do feel that it as a truth teller more so, it's like I'm able to ground him a little bit more and bring down, like, yeah, it may feel the world, is crumbling around you, but it's not as bad as it seems.
Absolutely.
That's the complimentary relationship they've always had. Like even from the moment, you know what I mean, Kanan felt he got his first truth from first episode, right?
Yeah,
And Famous is like, yo, like this is what you about to do, and I'm not going
Yeah.
out there like this, right? Like
yeah,
that's again going back to Kanan and the other people around him and the kind of shield they tried to put up around him. Famous in certain ways offers that shield, but also that's why Kanan is so loyal to that, is because he grounds him. He gives him it the way it's supposed to be, which he
exactly.
will always respect about him. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Well, thank you guys. They are wrapping me. I've seen the first 3 episodes. This has always been my favorite show of the universe. I'm very excited to see the rest of the season. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Love,
so much.
appreciate
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patina, for your time. Every time I see you, I find a new reason to be blown away by you, by your performance, and the undertaking that you have with Rock and inviting us into who Rock is. So much time is spent on like work-life balance. People talk about work-life balance. Is there a such thing as work-life balance for someone like Rock, given that this is a family show with a strong family dynamic, but in an untraditional type of work role?
Yeah. I don't think the work-life balance works for her. I honestly, even in my own life, I don't have work-life balance because it's not real. You know what I mean? Like in the world we live in, right? Like it's hard. It's easy to say and plan like this is how I want to do, but at the end of the day, it never happens that way. And I think with Rock, the whole problem is that like she's not able to, maybe before she had a great work-life balance, before she had a kid, but that is all kind of a different ballgame when you've decided to take on this big position of being not only the head of a matriarch, right? Like you're the matriarch of the family, you're the head of an enterprise, and you're raising a teenage son, you know, and you're trying to do all of these things. It's only inevitable that it's all going to kind of come together in some way. And I think maybe early Rock was naive to think that she could keep it separate. And so now between the seasons, she's had to deal with the consequences of maybe that idea of being able to have the balance. And I think what makes the show, and when I play her, what I love about it is that she's always having to think on her feet. She's always presented with problems at all moments, but it's how she deals with those problems. You know, so sometimes she deals with it in a great way, sometimes not so great, but real life, I think it's raw and it's real. And you're watching this woman in real time have to make decisions, you know, and that's where the danger comes in. That's where the stakes get high, right? Like the stakes are high, not just because she's running a drug empire, but because she needs to keep her family safe, everyone safe, right? So there is no such thing as a work-life balance when you're dealing with a character like Rock, who's decided to take on what she's taking on.
Outside of that, raising a teenager in itself is a whole thing. You know,
Yes.
I got mine out of the teens on Thanksgiving. Mine is now 20.
Oh my God. Congratulations.
That's where all this gray hair came from.
Honey.
But that is, you look at there's a thing that you face as a parent when you look at your child and you start to see yourself in them and you realize that they see you as a person and not their parent. So is Kanan a mirror for Rock? Have they had their awakening with each other that they see each other now as people? Or is that parent-child relationship going to continue into this season?
What I love, you just hit it. What I love about this season is it is exactly that. It is exactly that. Kanan's blinders are off now. He sees his mom for who she is. Rock has run out of lies. There is no other secret left that is big as this one, right? Like she carried that secret for 2 seasons to try and see if she could do it. She carried it a long time, right? But it's all, the truth is here now. The truth is out. Her son sees her for who she is. And through this season, you are watching them grapple with the fact that they are each other, right? Kanan's trying so desperately to get away from his mother, to not be, you know, he doesn't want anything to do with her really right now, and rightfully so. But then she is outside looking in on him, seeing herself in him and having to deal with that, right? Because it's her fault, it's the consequence of all of the things that she did, sending him to kill his dad, lying to him in that way. Mind you, it was to keep him safe. All of these things she did for a reason, but now she has to deal with the idea that like he's a man now, and it's her, and so that's a lot for her to deal with.
He gonna find out. So he's gonna find out.
Yep.
Well, I thank you so much for your time. Have a marvelous season.
Thank you.
Favorite show of the universe. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you, Sascha, for your time. I appreciate it. I have been very excited to talk to you because I'm a little biased about this show of all the shows in the universe. And so with that, I'm looking at, after watching the episodes we've been privy to, I'm thinking about characters who become darker in an already dark scenario and what that even looks like
right
in their crime world. What is the journey of making characters darker in a circumstance that's already dark? When we meet them, there's still sort of levity and light to all of them, but now it's not that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a fine line. You don't, I think characters that veer too much into sort of like, real dark storylines, and it can be a little overwhelming. I think, look, there's a lot of drama in this show, and I think that is sort of lends itself, I guess, to what you're talking about, which is the characters veer a little bit towards, again, for lack of a better word, I guess darkness would be the word. But I think there still is a good amount of levity in the show. At its heart, this is a family drama. And I think we always circle back on that because that's sort of the engine of the series, So, whether it's Marvin or Famous or, Unique. I mean, I think that we do have, I wouldn't call them moments of levity, but it's not just sort of nonstop sort of grimness. There are definitely moments of sort of, I would say hope. And also, again, this is about a family. So we really try to lean into that dynamic as much as we can. And you'll see, they have family dinners. There's definitely moments between Jukebox and Kanan that feel very, sort of loving and meaningful. And, that still for me feels like the franchise. But yeah, I mean, look, it's a high stakes world and there's real stuff going on.
For sure. Speaking to Tony Danza, who will be joining the cast this season, love Tony, have enjoyed a lot of things. And he talked about being part of the show and having that internal dialogue like, oh, I don't want to play a stereotype of an Italian. But he saw that after reading, he was really, really intrigued and really, really hooked. And that's what ultimately was a deciding factor for him. So what do you find is the fine line to tread of characters to make sure they have depth and dimension while playing a role that's, not stereotypical, but roles that are
familiar
to specific ethnic groups per se?
Yeah. I mean, I think, that's where hopefully good writing and good performances come in. I mean, I think that, if you look at even a movie like Goodfellas, those are familiar characters. We've seen those characters many times before. But they're given a complexity and depth and sort of nuance that, you haven't seen before. They're fully rounded human beings who have lives outside of, frankly, the stereotype. And I think that's what Tony responded to. I read something recently about Goodfellas where, there's that scene in Goodfellas where Joe Pesci and Ray Liotta, rest in peace, and Robert De Niro go to Joe Pesci's mom's house, remember? And they got the guy in the trunk. I don't know if you're as familiar with it.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah. And so that entire scene was improvised. And, you know, when she pulls out the painting and he's like, oh, I love this. This dog goes this way. That dog goes that way. And the old guy's like, what do you want from me? I read an interview with David Chase where he said essentially the entire Sopranos was based on that one scene, you know, which was taking this real family moment and placing these wise guys into it, you know, to him felt like the best version of the Sopranos. And I think on some level, you know, I'm not David Chase and I'm sure as hell not Martin Scorsese, but that's kind of what we aspire to as well, you know, which is characters that, again, are fully realized and multidimensional, who have real lives, but at the same time, they have this sort of very high stakes other piece of their existences that they're constantly having to service and deal with.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, well, they are wrapping me. Thank you. I enjoyed the first 3 episodes, Chef Kiss, and I'm very excited to see the rest of the season. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Giandra. It's great to meet you, and thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Tony, for your time. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Giandra. Thank you. I just was commenting that I didn't think black girls could be nerds.
We are. Yeah, there are all kinds of shades, all kinds of shades.
Oh, no, I know that, but usually cool. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. We bring a little swag to it. And speaking of swag, I love the swag that you are bringing to Raising Kanan and starting to enter this power dynamic that's happening in the city there. And so I got to thinking about being a person in power while trying to keep a low profile in the industry that they're all kind of residing in. What is the key to asserting the power that you have to people while keeping a low profile, while not being so over the top and heavy handed with letting people know exactly who you are?
Well, Giandra, I'd like to take complete credit for all of it, but it's in the writing. You know, it's the stuff they give you, and that's what's so wonderful about working on the show. The writing is so strong. It's almost like, you know, I have a friend of mine who said when I told him I was doing this part, he said, "Well, you know the territory," and so the writers seem to know the territory. I think basically though that Stefano. You know, he's not one of these guys that wants to be a celebrity. He is a low key behind the scenes guy. Hence the fish store on Jamaica Avenue, and I think he also is a little smarter than people take him for. So that he sees the weaknesses. For instance, in Marvin, the relationship between Marvin and Rock, he sees there's, you know, he could get in between that if he's smart. So there's a lot of that going on, I think. And again, I go back to the writers who give us such such rich stuff to work with.
Mm-hmm. And in making the decision to become part of the universe, the power universe is crazy and it has far-reaching consequences, Raising Kanan and all the other shows. How far were you into reading what they sent you before you were like, okay, I'm in? How quick was the hook to get?
I'm going to be perfectly honest. See, I'm Italian, right? And I'm a little, every once in a while I get the twinge of, oh, am I propagating an Italian stereotype? All right. And I know it sounds, you know, the same old story, but it's real. It happens. And so I have been lucky in that I haven't had to play a lot of these parts. I've done some, but I haven't played a lot. Like a lot of my Italian friends, they've had to play these parts, you know. I mean, that's what they were. That you want to play it, you want to act it, and so this came along, and I was like, I don't know, you know. And then I read it, and I got to work with Michael Rispoli, a wonderful actor, in the scene, and I just said I would like to try it, and immediately upon doing the first scene, I was hooked. I just was hooked with the whole environment of it, the you know, like I said, this week Mario Van Peebles is directing. I mean, so it's a wonderful show. It's a wonderful place to work, and I feel very lucky to have ended up there.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, like you mentioned that your character Stefano has a fish store, and there's always the adage about swimming with the fishes. You know, is that
Well, these are little fish, though. These are little fish. The biggest tank we have is 49 gallons. No, I'm only kidding.
Well, that is awesome. They are wrapping me. You are a wonderful addition to the show. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm very excited for the rest of the season. Thank you so
Andrew,
much.
thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.